Hello and welcome to Quick Take TA here on Landy's Crypto Corner. Today is August 21st, 2024, and Bitcoin finally put in a higher low on a closing basis on the daily here. So let's take a look at it and follow up with where we left off on Monday's video. So, this entire move down to the bounce here at this first big higher low. We saw the close come in at that 61.8 level. Between the two candles here on spot, there was a little bit of a gap in the lower term time frames for the Coinbase chart. But essentially, we saw 61.8 on the close open to this wick high here at 62.8. That was the first major lower high of this entire move down. And we didn't get any higher low closes. We did have an initial higher low wick, but we needed to see the close come in above around $61,000. That didn't occur. Got a swing high to a swing lower low, another swing high to a swing higher low, but we still hadn't seen a closing higher low, and that was the criteria. I had mentioned that if Bitcoin traded back above around 60,300 again on even medium-term timeframes, we're likely looking to like 61K to 61.8, which is this close open structure here. Well, in Wednesday's candle, we did see a closing higher low as it relates to these guys over here, and even this 60,600 level. So we do have a closing higher low. We also have a swing higher low, and we fulfilled the first criteria to the upside, which was spiking the close open here at 61.8. The next thing we need to see to really begin to turn things around and look like a full trend reversal on the daily would be a close above 62,755 here on the daily. You can call it 62.8. I will tell you, because of the compression you can see here, this is more volatility focused, but I do think that Bitcoin is coiling up and is going to be ready for a move, if not some part of this week, probably by next week. So if it doesn't occur in the latter half of this week, meaning today, which is the Thursday candle into Friday candle, there's a possibility that it could occur over the weekend, but more than likely next week if it hasn't occurred by then. Meaning, if this weekend isn't a volatile weekend, then it's likely going to be next week when things start to get moving. And that's either to the upside or the downside. And we're going to define that criteria here shortly. But first things first, we need to see this trend turn around. We have a nice higher low wick here. We've got the higher low close in now. Bitcoin has spiked the first, met the first set of criteria here, spiked 61.8. That was one of the big levels to the 62.8. That now we need to see a daily close above 62.8 to break this overall downtrend. In terms of the larger move here on the daily, and then we would have a trend reversal on our hands, likely looking to some of those higher prices. So now I do need to caution you about the downside. We don't want to see any closes below 57,820 now, this higher low wick here. That would start to paint the picture that Bitcoin's going to come back down to somewhere around this close open structure at 57.5 to the wick low at 56,120. Bulls don't want to see that right now. They want to build on this Wednesday candle. Otherwise, I do think things will end up running the low on a close at minimum, somewhere around that $54,000, maybe $55,000 even, where we currently see this lower second coming in. Now, that's something I'm going to talk to you about in a little bit here, but anywhere below there, and I'm looking to the wick low and lower. But bulls did an admirable job here on Wednesday, and now we do have the Thursday candle open. Let's take a look at a few things here. We'll get to momentum and RSI and all that stuff. So we'll get to the momentum stuff in a minute. Let's go ahead and put on the accumulation distribution zones here, which is just the local zones for support and resistance. Let's go ahead and get rid of the Landy bands, which is just a indicator that has a triple Bollinger Band set built in. And we can see that Bitcoin closing back in the recover zone. What was the criteria? Close back in here, even on the medium-term timeframes, likely going to run 61 to 61.8. We had already seen that occur in the Tuesday candle. Bitcoin just came back to follow that up and actually hit our 61.8 target at the close open here. Next area, of course, 62.8, and then be aware of the overhead resistance, which is this lower high of this downtrend here at that 63.8 level to $64,000. I would give it some room in the lower term timeframes at least. any closes on the daily, especially above there. And, I would be looking to this pivot zone somewhere around 65 to 65.5 here. And then above there, be very, very aware again of that 67,272 to the upside here. This has been, an area of overall resistance since Bitcoin has been in this range. It acted as support here, but it was the first major first major downtrend. Yes, it was the first major downtrend, but it was actually the first major lower high of a downtrend here, of the first downtrend, because we did have higher low structure. We did have some lower highs here at around 71 and a half. We had a wick up, almost to 73 there, but this was the first major lower high of this entire range. That area acted as resistance when retested after the reversal here. After the first big dump off to 56 and a half, we had the bottom side of the recovery zone basically here at that 60,263 reversal. Well, where did it find resistance? Right at 67,272. That was also where we found support before double topping at $72,000. You'll even see that this first lower high in a swing and a close came down and tried to hold 67,272, lost it, right? Wicked below it, and then retested it as resistance. So this is very important to understand that this makes it a very, very significant level. You can give it some room on a wick, but realistically, I want to see closes, that start to get above the 63.8, start to work its way towards 65.5 on the low side of the pivot zone to that 272. I want to see that area closed above to get consistent closures pointing up towards the $68,000 to $70,000 area where we see the double top on a close. We had double tops on a wick on a basis at 72, and then double tops on a close at 68. Of course, the wick to $70,000, fulfilling our target exactly there. And in fact, there was somebody that asked me to point it out. It is $70,000 and 0 cents. It was actually a perfect tag of $70,000. So anywhere above there, I'm looking for the highs and higher to get ran. Basically, 71 and a half up here to $72,000. You could even call it above the run the high zone, 68 to 70 here. I would say, you could just keep the gaps as, the no man's land zone, but essentially that's 70 to, you could call it 72 if you like. Anywhere above there, I'm looking for the all-time high zone to get ran up to that 73.835 and higher. Realistically, above 72, I'm looking at 73 to 75 as the, first area of resistance, 75 to 78, then 78 to 80, mid to low 80s from there. Then we come back to it for, the deeper 80s into $90,000, and then, 100K. Now, as I'd mentioned, we don't want to see Bitcoin realistically right now. If you're bullish, you don't want to see Bitcoin really trading too far below 60,000 to 60,200, the bottom side of this recovery zone here. That would put it in danger of, coming back down to the top side of the risk zone here at 58.4. That is this wick low over here. And that also is right around this close open here at 58.3. So 58.3 to 4. If we were to start seeing any kind of even medium-term time frame closures below the daily, below there, it's in danger of taking out this higher low wick. That it would be invalidation of looking further to the upside, at least for a little bit. And that's at 57.820 now. Anywhere below there, I'm looking at basically the bottom side of the risk zone to get filled out somewhere around this wick low, at that 55.850, which is this close open over here. Bulls, you do not want to see closes below there. It would end up running, the danger zone here somewhere around that $54,000 low. If it starts to lose 53.5 on a close, and that low at 54 on a close, obviously, if it loses 53 on a close for the daily, then I am looking into target one of distribution, which is our $53,000 to $50,000, and possibly even the wick low here, top side of target two of distribution at 49K. Same criteria, any closes below there, I'm looking for target two to get filled out between this essentially 49K. There's the monthly there at 48,240 from the bear market high of 2022. And then, the bottom side of this zone at around 45.5, which was the close open of that bear market high. That is, I call it 45 to 48 essentially. 49 is fair game. Anything below 49, that is fair game rather. We can see electrical cost is right around 45.5. Let's actually go ahead and let me pull this up here. Give me just a second. I did not do the right thing and keep my Caprioli charts up here. So let me get that back on the right page here. So let's go ahead and check on what I'm doing is I'm pulling up the electrical costs. So give me just a moment because I want to make sure that hasn't deviated too far from what I have on the chart currently. That's not what I want. Give me just a second. There we go. Bitcoin production cost. Let's bring that over. So Bitcoin production cost is at 45,300. So it did come down a little bit. We have seen a little bit of a drop in competition on the network. Let's go ahead and, what was it? It was 45,312. So we'll just adjust that. Does it really matter that much right now? No. But it is, an exercise that I do encourage you. I think it's 312, not 320. But yeah, it's essentially target 2 of distribution is 45 to 48 as the main area of support that I'd be looking for. Of course, right around electrical cost is, not financial advice, but start getting towards electrical cost. You're buying it well below what production cost is at that point for the miners. And yeah, that's pretty much going to wrap support and resistance. Essentially, what I'm looking for is I want to see closes above 62.8 on the daily, and any kind of closes on the 4 or 6 hour above there is probably going to start pointing to the top side of the recovery zone at 63.8 to 64K, and then above there, especially on daily closes, we're looking right to that pivot zone. It's technically drawn here as 65.5 because that is this lower high. So we had the first major lower high there at 67,272. Next hold on. Let me get this out the correct way. The next major lower high before the first big reversal that led to the double top at 72 was at 65.5. But the first top in 2021 came in at 65,000. So if you start seeing closures above the recover zone, 63.8 to 64K, 65 to 65.5 is essentially the bottom side of the pivot zone. And then above there, we can start targeting that 67,272 and beyond. And bulls really just don't want to see closes back below 58.4. That would endanger this current higher low wick at 57,820. So let's go ahead and take a look at volatility. We'll keep the accumulation distribution zones on the chart here, and we'll throw the bands on because there is, some confluence that can be gleaned from these. And that would be that, essentially where Bitcoin is right now, it did close above the upper first, but because it is a compression on the daily, typically we see first pass rejections definitely at the extremes of the bands, unless we see closes outside of the upper second standard deviation or lower second standard deviation. If we don't see closes either above the upper second or the lower second, we will typically see first pass rejections upon getting into the bullish half of the bands or the bearish half of the bands, meaning support. You'll usually find these areas of support and these areas of the bands as resistance. Now, it's even more powerful when it is directly in line with a support and resistance level. Yesterday, the upper first was right where, the prior day's wick high was. Closed slightly above the upper first as it moved down into it. And from a volatility perspective, if Bitcoin is trading in the recover zone, so support and resistance related, and the upper first, which is at around $61,000, then I would be targeting the upper second, which is basically the wick high, 62.8. So any closes above there would start to get re-expansion to the upside in this case, targeting 63.8. Above there, we can see the upper third is, guess what? It's at $65,000. So we have confluence right there at the bottom side of the pivot zone. Closes above the upper second, and of course, getting out of the recover zone would kick off expansion. Thus, we would see expansion of the bands up into the pivot zone. That's where we get our deeper targets as confluence with support and resistance. To the downside, if we see Bitcoin starting to lose the bottom side of the recover zone at around 60,000 to 60,300, then, keep it on the basis band. That is a 20 simple moving average at around, $59,000 roughly. And, below there, 58.8, or I'm sorry, 58. Yeah, that would be our 58.4. Sorry. So 59 and then 58.4. 58.8 is the quarterly. My brain's getting mixed up with some of the macro charts in my head. But yeah, so below 59, then we're looking to the top side of the risk zone at that 58,400. Below there, like I said, it endangers this wick low. You don't want to see closes below there, and it wouldn't look good if the bulls let that area go at 57,820. But from a volatility standpoint, it'd be right back to run the close open area by the lower first at around $57,000 or so, 57.5 at the close open. Below there, we're looking right to the bottom side at that 55,850. And from a volatility standpoint, anywhere below the lower first, lower second is available. That's where we're getting our $54,000 to $55,000 area down here inside of the danger zone, and would start to look like expansion below there into that 53.5 wick down here, and probably beyond if it starts to get expansion. So there's our volatility piece. Let's go ahead and now check on momentum. It is still pointed to the upside. You saw when I clicked on this before. Most likely, momentum on the daily is still headed up. Pivot is going to be 60,400, so it's even a little bit above the bottom side of the recover zone here, which is technically here on Coinbase, it's 60,263. I just kind of call it 60,300 to $60,000 as like a zone around that area for lower term timeframes. If we start seeing closes directly below there, though, well, guess what? It's going to turn daily momentum to the downside. RSI is kind of hovering in and around the midline here. There's not too much interesting here on RSI just yet. There is an inverted head and shoulders on RSI, not on price action. This is, if this was an inverted head and shoulders, you could call it like a mini head and shoulders now with this closure. It was not prior. You could call it that on maybe the swings. You got the swing low. You've got the neckline now on the close opens. This was not complete if this was going to be an inverted head and shoulders. But you have the swing shoulders and the swing head. So now it does qualify, I guess. It's a little bit sloppy. And a little bit compacted, but essentially it's pointing to the same areas. It's pointing to around $63,000 to $64,000 on a break. Essentially, you see the same thing kind of painting on RSI here. It's not really, I don't think it's playable like that. You got to be aware of throwbacks. Now I would say that realistically, where I'd be looking in the longer term is if the midline of RSI can hold, price kind of holding and going sideways and up, and bulls recovering some of these key areas overhead, and especially breaking the daily downtrend there at that 62.8. We can start eyeballing that bullish control zone, which is currently coming in at the bottom side of it here at $66,000. So again, that puts Bitcoin right in the middle of the pivot zone there between 65.5 and 67,272. So, understand kind of the context of where we are. I wouldn't be surprised to see first pass rejections of the bullish control zone, by the way, for RSI. So just understand that is a thing. And it's right around a key area or a key zone of overhead resistance. Doesn't mean it would stop there, but you can see that first pass rejection over here. This was a second pass rejection here. First pass, after coming off the lows, it actually made it back in there. So it's not always consistent, but I would be looking for it in and around areas of horizontal support resistance, or in this case, resistance. The bearish control zone to the downside is going to be that $54,000, 54.4. So essentially right back into that danger zone down here where we had that $54,000 close. So, this Thursday, Friday session, Thursday session that we have open right now for Bitcoin is going to be pretty important. I'm going to be keeping a close eye on it. Anecdotally, I took my longs and all that stuff off of $49,000, $50,000 area because it was a key level, and I've been scalping here and there, but I haven't built that position out just yet. I want to see a downtrend break, get that trend reversal on, and then see what the bulls can do to the upside before I start looking to size any of those positions up, locally, and then come back to it, once some structure is built on some longer term timeframes above the daily. So that's, a little bit of anecdotal stuff for you. It's not financial advice. Do your own research. Make sure you're using good risk management when you do take trades. So I think that's going to do it for today. I was going to talk about some of the overhead areas of interest on the more short-term timeframes, like the daily, because I do get asked a lot about, like where could price go in a blue sky breakout and longer term. I think we're going to save that for Friday's video, and then if you can't tell, I'm kind of out of it. I'm exhausted right now, so yeah, we'll save that for Friday's video. If you were in any of the events this week that I was running in terms of Spaces events, I appreciate you. Lots of love for you for coming in to the Monday events, the Landy's Crypto Corner event. There we had a really good event there with Vault Layer and Bit by Bit and Peace Love from the Stacks community, and even had some guests come up here and there throughout. Chris from Block City and quite a few others that I'm probably forgetting right now, but not because I mean to forget you. So I apologize. But that's kind of the main big ones that were up on stage in that event. There was a lot of alpha there. Had a lot of fun with that one. Tuesday was a hell of an event with Welsh and the 100-day giveaway there with the Stacks communities, and that was a fun one. That event was full of technical difficulties left and right, but luckily it all ended very well and was a lot of fun. And then, of course, today, which is still Wednesday for me, even though Bitcoin has opened its Thursday candle, we had our Palm Spaces event as well. So I encourage you to go ahead and listen to those. This Friday, there's a big one with the guys from Block City again. Myself and Goyoza from Nat Monkeys are going to be talking with them, and Rich from CoreDAO. So if you're not familiar with CoreDAO, look them up on X. There's various accounts related to CoreDAO, but the main account is a very big one. Rich was a key player over there, so we're gonna be talking to them in Block City, and I think Chris is gonna kind of be opening that one up from Block City there, and he's the one who's kind of set that one up for us, and really looking forward to seeing what they're doing, what CoreDAO is building, and how Block City might be involved. And I encourage you to come through and check that one out. That's a big one. It's a lot of the things that we've wanted for a long time in this space are being discussed in those Friday events in terms of, development and kind of what's coming next for Bitcoin, both layer 1 and layer 2s, and integration with, stacks and other ecosystems and other layer 2s built on Bitcoin. So I encourage you to come in and check out those events, hang out with us. They're a lot of fun. You can learn a lot. Even if you don't necessarily understand everything that you're listening to, it's certainly exciting to hear that you can have the opportunity to hold your your keys, hold your Bitcoin, and have the potential to leverage that to earn. So join us then, and I'll talk to you again on Friday with another quick take TA that is not so quick take, but that's kind of the joke behind these. All right. You have a wonderful morning, afternoon, and evening. No matter where you are in the world, please trade safe. And of course, as always, stay safe. With all of that being said, Landy out. Oh, yeah. And one last thing. we had a bit of a meme space event and a really funny meme out of that event was the idea of a pump fund coin. That pump fund coin has now been launched. So, Reese, you are an absolute mad lad. So yeah, I contributed with the picture, and the idea was cooked up in a really funny Spaces event. Hopefully, some of you remember that. Take care. Have a good one. Landy out.